construction, such as the pandanus and the tea. They brought, let me get my lights on here. There we go.
This is the fast way.
This is the fast way. We'll probably come right out of this. We're just in a cloud right now. They brought construction materials. They brought food plants like the taro root. It was a staple of their diet. They made poi out of it. They cooked it. It's like a starchy root. They brought the coconut, bananas, brought all kinds of things. They brought animals with them. They brought the Polynesian black pig. They brought the Polynesian black dog was introduced. So the first four-legged critters were introduced by the Polynesians. There were no four-legged critters here in Hawaii because it's so isolated they can't get here on their own, right? It's too far to swim. So the only native animals to the island were birds, there were insects, there were no reptiles, there were, well, except for the Hawaiian green sea turtle, it can swim. The only mammals that were native were the monk seal and a bat. We were asking about bats earlier. So when the Polynesians arrived, they came, with a boatload of stuff, basically, that's still here today. And a lot of the things that we've been able to uncover about their history is based on what they brought with them, because you can look at Hawaii and say, okay, well, this couldn't have gotten here any other way than by people, and also you find these things around the South Pacific, so they just put the puzzle pieces together that way. And they're able to place dates on things based on plant spores. They can find fossilized plant spores in lava flow, in old rocks and in dirt, and kind of go back in time and try to figure out which hundreds of years that came from, when it might have been on the island, and that's how they can figure out when people might have arrived. So it is, it's a loose number of years. We're talking about within hundreds of years, but somewhere around 400 to 700 AD. So they arrived here and populated the islands. It's thought that the Hawaiian population at one time was almost what we have here in all of the Hawaiian Islands today. So in other words, there were people living on all the islands. We're at about 1.3 million today, and they think that there were around 1 million Hawaiians at one time. A very large population, which is amazing considering that they're living purely off of the land. And they're pretty much corralled to the windward sides of the island where the fresh water is, because you got to have that. There were small communities on the dry side where they could harness water from freshwater springs, and they would fish the dry sides of the island, but most of the people lived in the valleys, in those rugged windward valleys, and on the windward side of the island where they could grow and plant their food, collect fresh water, and all that. So about 1 million people. They were really good at managing their land. They divided their land up into what are called ahapua'as, which are these big pie-shaped wedges. Makes sense if you think about how an island is shaped, that your land would be narrower at the top and wider at the bottom. And each one of those was managed by chiefs. And again, they didn't really have ownership. Chief didn't consider himself the owner, but he was definitely the manager of the land.